Ladies and gentlemen of the old world, I hope you're all doing well and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be Evil Short versus Short here on the Needle Mist Isle, and it looks like it is going to be the Kadai Destroyer versus a whole bunch of cannons. Now, cannons, if this were an open field map, I would be very, very concerned for the Chaos Dwarves. I'd be like, oh my god, that Destroyer is going to get karate chopped by 4 cannons, but Needle Mist Isle, a very, very cool map designed by Sunshine, I believe, is a very tricky line of sight wise. Lots of trees, a lot of obstruction, lots of rocks and pillars and things to hide the destroyer behind and line of sight those cannons. So we're going to see how this works out. Looking at the army for the Dawi Czar, front line of laborers, hobgoblin cutthroats, double demon smith. Now the reason why you would do this is because you get 2 reforges. Well, 4 in total, but 2 of the activated abilities here reforge. So the Kadai Destroyer is going to be getting potentially healing capped here with these bad boys. And they do have armor-piercing pistols. If you just kind of sit them back behind the fight, they can pick off dwarf models for sure. Astrogoth is a really good choice here. Flamestorm is decent against Slayer blobs, and he himself is a really cost-effective armor-piercing fighter. So, yeah, great choice. Hobgoblin archers as well. You know, the dwarves are much slower than you, so you're going to want to use your evil hobgoblins to get up and get the objective advantage out of the gates before the dwarves get their wall of steel up on you. Now, looking at Ridley's build here, Ridley is going to be using Dwarf Warriors in the front line, backed up by 4 cannons is a pretty serious investment. Slayers as well. Malachi McKyson is going to be back here with the Eyes of Grungni, as well as the Artillery Master, which makes Dwarven cannons pretty insane. And that's going to be it. The tricky part is going to be line of sight and defending those cannons, right? That is going to be the hardest thing for sure. Because on this map, there's a Vanguard point for the Chaos Dwarves right here, and they can zip across and potentially get those guys with hobgoblins. I mean, if I were Johnny Cash here, I'd be sitting with a full chub seeing where these are because they don't have a spawn like right on them. So if they move up a little bit further, like right here, you're going to be able to get those with hobgoblin wolf riders. Granted, Dwarven artillery crews are very stalwart, so sometimes it can take a while to knock them off. So we'll see how it goes. All right, guys. So the evil short forces have gathered here and do have 2 objectives, and the good short is going to be getting objective 2 here, as we do see the double runesmith as well. I like that. Yeah, double Rune of Slowness, as well as the Hammer of Karak. Not bad items. The Rune of Slowness here is going to be able to slow down hobgoblins. Probably keeping some like in the space around your cannons would be very good. But yeah, the dwarves have their win condition cut out. Basically, just let their cannons barrage anything in the middle, hold objective 3, and make the Chaos Dwarves work for it. This matchup typically is very dwarf favored. Probably like 65-35, 70-30, I would say, in favor of the dwarves. But maps and domination mode are a big deal. I mean, if you guys remember the olden days of Warhammer 2 land battles, very much like every map was either flat and open or a little bit smaller and still flat and open. Maybe there was like an occasional tree or a rock or something, but for the most part, the maps were all pretty much the same. So the meta was a little bit more set in its ways in regard to the compositions and matchups. But it can change in domination. Now, the Wolf Riders getting into their opponent's backfield, you got to be careful doing this against dwarves, though, because what seasoned dwarf players will do is they'll call out the dreaded Grimdelvers, and they'll keep them in their backfield. And then when you try and dive, you're just going to get punished super, super badly. So dwarves able to grab this, while the hobgoblins poking around in the trees, actually getting a lot of damage against slayers, which is very cost-effective. But yeah, Ridley for sure is going to want Grimdelvers here. That is going to be what is cooking. Slayers Rage Boner chasing down the hobgoblins, which are going to be poking them, as the cannons are set up here, taking up position on objective 2, and oh my god, is he I think he's going to do he's going to dive his opponent's backfield. So this is also a viable tactic. You move through the trees, come right here, and then move all your big monsters and your infantry on top of their cannons if you can. Now, what the dwarf should do in anticipation of this is reform the ranks. Ridley wants to get 2 dwarf units to block the tree line path and get the runesmiths there for the slows as well. And even though there are trees, you can still get them with cannons. So we do get the miners with blasting charges coming out. And it looks like the hobgoblins are going to be diving on the cannons. Maybe, but they won't be able to probably kill them. So perhaps running is the smarter play. We'll have to see. They're going to keep circling. Slayers or Rageboner chasing them. And the rest of the Dawi Czar army is going to be making its way through the bushes right now with the dreaded Kadai Destroyer. The dwarves have not started reforming the ranks yet. Granted, they do have a lot of Slayers nearby. And now the cannons are going to be getting attacked. But again, these are no mere cannon crews. These are Dawi cannon crews. And you can see they really hold up very, very well. And even some of the hobgoblins do start to rout there due to some of the pressure. So scary stuff. Slayer's hot on their tail. A lot of dwarves are chasing here. But the good thing about this is the cannons are in a bit of an awkward position. They're very clumped up, probably spreading out some of the cannons. But this really just is not a cannon map. It's a tricky one for them. Probably using Iron Drake Trollhammer torpedoes Although, yeah, because on this map, Chaos Dwarves could have done a Deathstreaker build or a Dreadquake even. You park it behind these trees, and you'd be able to do some really evil tactics against the Dwarves. Arguably, this is a map where the Chaos Dwarves could be favored against Dwarves in the artillery duel. Not in the overall matchup, but in just the artillery duel here. So cannons are not firing yet. Now some of them are shooting. They are going to be blasting into the Dawizar army as they do move in here, and they're going to be going balls deep for it. So yeah, get those Slayers together. Get Malachi back there. Get some chaff units in front. We do see the archers shooting into the Dawi crews here. Might be able to knock one of those cannons off. Blasting charges of Ridley definitely should turn to the left. Try and take those guys down as Johnny Cash going to be moving up through the trees. On the back, Goblin Laborers coming in. Slayer's going to be forming up. And where the hell are the Grim Delvers? Those guys need to be called out. They're so damn good in these types of situations. Would be able to punish the Kadai Destroyer. 4 cannons ripping shots into the big man. And the trees are blocking like most of them. Although some of the cannon shots are connecting to the trees. Overall, you know, the threat is still on. So here, the Hobgoblins able to outmaneuver the Slayers. Ridley making a bit of a misplay, not just leaving a unit of Slayers behind them to protect it. And here we do get the Skyhammer calling out. Okay, so the Skyhammer is going to be able to bombard some of these Goblins most likely and get rid of all the chaff. With proper micro, the Skyhammer here could hammer down the Hobgoblins. Well, it is a Skyhammer. It could bombard them. And then that would allow the Kadai Destroyer to be surrounded by Slayers. In the backfield, the Hobgoblin Archers do get taken offline. And now we do see the big man coming in. And this is a little bit precarious because Malachi does lose to Astrogoth in combat. Malachi is not he's an okay melee fighter, but he would lose to Astrogoth for sure. And here comes the Monster Mash. In the meantime, the Skyhammer here dropping its machine gun on the Demon Smith as the Hobgoblin's going to be engaging. And we do see the Fireborn coming out for the Chaos Dwarves as well. So, good execution of like a forest ambush. We do see the Master Rune of Slowness activated. Slayers and Malachi trying to take down the big man. Cannons are blasting down the Kadai Destroyer. Oh my god, the Master Rune and the regular one, putting him down to 6 speed. Flamestorm activated there. Is the Kadai Destroyer going to get into combat? Middle objective being held as some of the Fireborn do move in to try and wrestle that where they can. And the Miners here are fighting a hard fight versus a lot of Hobgoblins, but they are supported by Fireborn, so should be able to get that. And the Cannons being swarmed. Slayer surging forth to try and protect them, and Astrogoth Iron Hand, you're going to need something like Doomseekers or some sort of a generalist anti-infantry or just an armor-piercing unit to take him down. Destroyer might get in there, and we do see the Dwarven Bombardment, very nice, taking down some of the Labor Corps. So the unpaid interns finally getting paid, but they have to be paid by the opposition here, by the Dwarves. And now the big beastie getting close at 4,000 HP. The cannons are still hammering, and that is a lot of Slayers. They might be able to drag him down. Astrogoth going to be having a battle with one of his cousins here. Looking very evil as he does continue boinking. He's got his big old hammer right there. Malachi Makaisen, he's not in great shape. Good combat stats, but a little bit low in the armor and does not have good AP himself. And Astrogoth is a tanky boy. He's got 130 armor right now, so he is pretty damn thick. Destroyer probably going to be breaking soon and potentially disintegrating once the Burning Bright wears off. But damn, look at that. Destroyer punching Malachi in the face. Getting some big old damage right there. As the Fireborn continue trying to make their way through, the Skyhammer getting some effective shooting. And we do also see the Bull Centaurs, the Ashit Stark Ravagers, yeah, with the throwing axes to go after the Skyhammer. Nice Flamestorm. Even though Dwarves do have spell resist, the magic like this is still very good against Slayers. Malachi might actually get killed here by the Kadai Destroyer, which is being reforged by the Demon Smiths. Homie's in trouble. The Destroyer might come after him with the Rage Boner. We're going to have to see how this goes. It is targeting him down. Malachi is hiding in the trees, the bravest of all Slayers, like a horror movie right there. Look at that. Oh, it's so cool. And is Malachi going to be able to get away? 400 HP, the Destroyer is hot on his case, and oh, that thing is so sick looking. Hunting the Dwarf through the bushes. As the Dwarf does manage to waddle away, we're going to see if he can survive. So cannons do get taken offline. Big win for the Chaos Dwarves, but ironically, even with the cannons, all 4 cannons being compromised, it's still like favored for the Dwarves in terms of value, which is insane. Granted, you have to remember the healing on the big Destroyer here. So the Destroyer going to be trying to finish off Homeboy. Malachi is a little bit trapped up by Slayers. Not Malachi, Astrogoth. Should be able to get that. We do see a big slap right there, and I think that Malachi has been slain by the Kadai Destroyer. One of the coolest models in the game, by the way. That thing looks so freaking cool. All right, so Destroyer going to be heading to pressure the back objective of the Dwarves. And it's certainly going to dominate those chaff units. I think you can take like 8 of those units, honestly. They're very weak, those basic miners. And in the middle, we do see the Grim Delvers called out. Looks like they pushed up when I wasn't looking, but they are being attacked by a lot of Bull Centaurs and Ashit Stark Ravagers, which are going to be able to mow down the point here. And honestly, I think we're going to start to see Chaos Dwarves really just dominate this game now. All of the anti-large, anti-Kadai, anti-Bull Centaur, everything was in those cannons. I mean, there are Slayers, of course. Man, look how quickly they dispatched those guys. Yeah, there were the impact buffs to the Kadai Destroyer a couple patches ago. It is sitting at 1400 value here. It will die to Slayers in a straight-up fight. I mean, it might want to move away. It's like shooting rockets. Haven't seen that animation before. But back in the middle, Hashid Stark Ravagers able to use their throwing weapons, which is something you don't see terribly often. And they do actually push back the Skyhammer Squadron. And back on the point, most likely going to be a victory for the Dowie Tsar. We have a lot of unpaid interns coming in, and they are pissed they have not been paid. You know, they were offered exposure and resume experience by their overseers, and none of it's really worked out for them. As the Goblin Labor is coming up, going to provide buffering for some of the monsters here. Hashid Stark Ravagers will be able to rip through most of these units with pretty good efficiency. And Astrogoth continues hunting down the Slayer units while the Destroyer is going to be pounding into these chaff units here. Now, is there any chance for a comeback here? Long-drawn Slayer Pirates, certainly not a bad choice. Slayer Pirates do have good armor-piercing shots, so going to be able to put some decent stopping power down into the Hashid Stark Ravagers. A couple blasting charges coming out, but it does look like the Dowie Tsar are going to be able to wrestle this point. Big point advantage for the Dwarves, though. Ridley is sitting on a massive points lead, so maybe it could come down to a triple cap situation where the Chaos Dwarves do need to get all three of them, which might be hard. We're going to have to see. I mean, the Chaos Dwarves are down in value according to this, but they're actually really ahead. It hasn't, of course, been tracking the healing on the Kadai Destroyer, which is almost healing capped it, right? Pretty substantial. This objective going to be going to the Evil Shorts, as they do pound down the miners right here, whereas on the middle point, we do see that objective being held by the stalwart Dowie. The Runesmiths, as well as the miners of blasting charges, hanging in there. Hashid Stark Ravagers getting blasted by the remnants of the Skyhammer Squadron, which do a lot of damage with their machine guns, as well as their bombardments. And it looks like the Dark Ravager is going to be setting up with those Olympic throwing arms. Man, send those guys to the Major Baseball League. Forcing back the Skyhammer Squadron, which is very nicely microed by Ridley right there, so Homeboy was able to move back there. Back from the point, unpaid interns going pretty bananas, backed up by the Kadai and the Bull Centaurs. It's a losing fight here for the Dwarves. They're going to lose that fight eventually, and on the outside, the Chaos Dwarves do get their clutches on this one, pretty much break the Dwarves off the position here, which really is a herald of doom. Like, looking around the battlefield, most of the objectives are just looking very bleak for the Dwarves. It's only a matter of time. We do see split pushing coming in. I don't hate this idea. The Dowie Tsar are not defending their back objective. Could send some Hobgoblins or maybe just some unpaid interns over there to try and defend that. We'll have to see how that goes. But in the middle, the Dwarves for the first time really losing the fight. Runesmiths getting battered, and the rest of the Dwarvish infantry here being taken by the Bulls on parade as they do get in there with their big beat sticks. Kadai Fireborn doing great damage, and normally these things would be getting cannonballed or shot pretty badly, but considering the efficiency of taking down the cannons earlier, it has opened up one aspect of the game that the Chaos Dwarves do very well in. And here, Astrogoth and the Destroyer doing great. 1800 value on this bad boy. Double Demonsmith Engineer. I just don't see any chances, guys. I think this game is 100% over. I'm going to fast forward a little bit and see if there's any comeback options for the Dwarves. They do go for the back point. As it currently stands, yeah, we would see the Chaos Dwarves win on just 2 objectives. So I don't see any comeback there, and neither do the Dwarves. GG, well played. Really fun game. The cannons certainly... There was a couple things the Dwarves did positionally that was rough. They needed to reform the ranks and block that advance and tarpet the advance a little bit. Also maybe spreading their cannons into 2 groups so they're not all stacked together, so they can't all be compromised in one fell swoop. And some of the pathing with defending the cannons was a little bit off, but really did do a good job defending, working back after a very rough start with those cannons getting pounded. But overall, Johnny Cash with the dreaded Forest Ambush, I love the build. I mean, look, anytime you can bring a destroyer like that and make it work against a strong player, it's fun to see. And yeah, aside from that, just solid anti-Dowie troops being called in reserve. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that one. I certainly did. Thank you to Johnny Cash and Ridley for the great game. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you all on the other side.